It was actually hard to narrow it down. You don't realize how many sibling bands there are actually out there. Obviously, we have to talk about Oasis. RJ and I talk about Oasis all the time because we know that they hate each other, and we've never like actually gotten to that point in our relationship where we like won't do gigs together. Like, I don't know if you thought about this, RJ, but I wonder if that animosity between them is actually like what makes them great. I feel like it was Liam was like, dude, my brother's an idiot and he writes these songs. I can do better than that. You know, it's like that kind of, it's almost like inspiring in itself if you think your brother's a dumbass.
Like, I could do that.
Yeah, I can do that. And then, of course, I mean, there's Radiohead. All of the different lifetimes that they've lived through as family members, but also just, you know, as musical partners. There has to be a lot of trust in that band where, you know, if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to talk about waking up sucking on a lemon, you know, like someone's going to say something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic with Radiohead because it's the guitar player and bass player are siblings. Not so much with like Oasis where it's like lead singer, guitar player. So it's like this might be a little bit of ego involved if like one brother is getting like all the press and all the attention and the other one isn't, which is funny because that's kind of the case with us. But I've never really felt that level of like, oh, I deserve more attention or whatever, and maybe it's because we're brother sister, we're not like brother or sister.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know it's funny how we've been trying to figure this out for years. Like, what? How come we're cool?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many brother sister bands are out there.
Hey everybody, we've been talking about sibling bands, but we want to talk about a very special sibling band that we actually both grew up listening to thanks to our parents, the Carpenters.
We've only begun before the rising sun.
I have to say, I feel like the Carpenters is the reverse of you and I. Like if I had started on the drum,
that was inevitable that we were going to be inspired by them for sure.
Yeah.
Mad props to Karen. I think she's really underrated. She's got this jazz, old school groove style, and her drumming was incredible, and so was her voice.
Yeah, if you ever want to be, especially all you young girls out there, if you ever want to be encouraged, you know, and just some inspiration, all the young drummers, look up Karen Carpenter's drum solos on YouTube.
Amazing.
You can find them out there. Every time I see it go by on Instagram, I'm like, repost. I think this only really happens with sibling bands, and it's very apparent with the Carpenters, are the harmonies. When Lil Bro and I were kids and just starting the band, he was the only one that could sing. He has an uncanny ability to match my inflections and really just kind of the glue that holds it together.
The sad thing about the Carpenters was how Karen was just getting pushed away from behind the kit. And from what I've researched, she felt very comfortable behind the kit. She really loved drumming as much as she loved singing. And it was so cool to see her play the drums and singing. That was so different and so unique. But at the time, they were just like, nope, she's got to be the front woman. And kind of feel like Karen was a little bit cheated back then.
It happens, I think, you know, in some way with every generation. There's an industry that thinks that they know how, you know, you're supposed to look and how people are supposed to perceive you, and honestly, big middle fingers to that. You know, do what you want and make yourself comfortable and be who you are on stage.
Black Crowes. Oh my God, one of the best rock and roll bands of all time. I feel like we saw them back in the day and they were like they were having problems and like weren't really like looking at each other on stage and all that.
What happened?
What happened? What happened, guys? You know,
is it money?
Is it girls? Money? What
girls,
happened?
money, drugs? What happened?
But at the same time, with the animosity, I feel like there is something to that. This is not a brother and sister act, but Fleetwood Mac, you know, the Rumors album, they were all screwing each other and they were breaking up and they were doing stuff, but that album would not be what it is if it wasn't for all of that. So I wonder if there's something to the Black Crowes where it's like some of that soul that comes through everything is just actually how they feel.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
When I was growing up, I wanted to sing like Anne and play like Nancy. That was where that began for me. They've had to go through a lot, and just being women in this business, I've gotten to meet both of them and speak with Anne quite a bit. And I had to kind of say, thank you to both of them, because I never had to sit in anybody's lap to get my record played. I never had to compromise myself, to the point where I, didn't recognize myself in the mirror in order to get myself on the radio or push my band forward. I only have it easier because those women didn't give up and they didn't stop doing what they're doing and creating great music in the face of adversity in a time where women in rock music was not a thing. It was not and even, it goes through phases, but it's like, they didn't get taken seriously for their amazing musicianship until after they proved themselves over the course of many, many years. I remember hearing Anne say something similar to what I say about my little brother, about how she always had her sister. Like, no matter what yes people were on, like, do this, do that, no matter how many people were trying to divide and conquer them, they had each other.
It would be a complete lie if both of us didn't say that they were a huge, huge influence on us all around. What an incredible band.
It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
AC/DC, the greatest band of all time. It's deceivingly simple sounding. We've covered AC/DC quite a bit, and every time we go in, we're like, we got this, and we're like, wait a minute, there's this push and pull, there's this ebb and flow that happens that I really think that can only happen if there are siblings in the band. That is what glues AC/DC together. Really, Malcolm, would let Angus shine so much. He's like, hey, I'm going to create this bed and you do your thing. To have that type of confidence, quiet confidence, and respect for your sibling, it much different than the Black Crows, I suppose, where there's the jealousy thing. It's like, no, I'm not jealous, I'm exalting you, and in turn we get to do this thing even better and bigger because we have that respect.
I think the funniest thing about AC/DC is how many people in America don't know they're Australian.
Here in Nashville, one of my favorite pastimes is to go to dive bars and sing karaoke, and I'll do Shook Me All Night Long, and man, it brings the house down. It's like you can always, you satisfy everybody with AC/DC.
Everyone's like, USA, USA. No,
like, no, it's Australia.
They're Australian.
2 times and it has rendered me unstrung and without bail.
The DeLeo brothers. So we actually wrote with them back in the day. When we were making our first album, we kind of cold called whoever, and they showed up at our practice space. The two of them are so talented. Obviously, STP wouldn't be STP without the brothers, because of the great music that they create. They create that music, that bed, so that someone like Scott Weiland can just do his thing over top of it. And the way that they would speak to each other was really interesting to me, because they would almost, it wasn't really like they were finishing each other's sentences. They were like completing each other.
Yeah, really humble, down to earth dudes. And I think, and I could be wrong, because I know like everyone who knows music respects the hell out of the DeLeo brothers, but I think like in the general mainstream, criminally underrated, I think.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. They need to be on more lists of like top people,
I agree.
Top musicians. Yeah.
I wish I had a heaven of my own.
Clark and Poe. So we're actually really good friends with those girls. They're incredible musicians, incredible singers, incredible songwriters, and they've played with nearly everybody of any note. We've had many late night conversations like right here in this house with those girls, just about our collective journeys and the power, honestly, that comes with having your family in a band. If you're a sibling, no matter what your walk of life, you grew up in a war zone together. You're either battling your parents or you're battling school and whatever. And if you're lucky enough, they're your ride or die forever. And that type of mentality bleeds itself into your band mentality. With Lark and Poe, like we've talked about that quite a bit with each other. And so like for me, I wanted to put them on the list just because they're incredible. And I feel like they are, again, very highly underrated. And I think more people need to know who they are. We miss Vinny. We got to know Vinny quite well while he was still here. Something I loved about Vinny every time that we would talk about Dime is that he just loved his brother so much. He was so angry and sad that he was gone, but he lived his life the way that he thought his brother would have been proud of him. And in all honesty, I think that it's because of that sibling love that they stayed together for as long as they did, while they were still a four-piece. Like this is, I'm not talking about just when, Dimebag passed, but I'm talking about before that, because I know there were a lot of craziness going on. There was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of fights and all of that. And I feel like those brothers were like the glue that kind of held that together.
That's just such a great example, because like that, talk about a band of siblings where the two brothers are best friends. And you really could feel that when you'd see interviews with the two of them. They would just be goofing off with each other, and they partied their asses off, and they were still like so tight. When they started Damage Plan, they were just like, well, we're just gonna, whatever we do, we're gonna do it together. God, like, yeah, I can't even fathom what Vinny went through when that happened. And you're right, like Vinny lived every day like it was his last, probably just because he had a very real sense of his own mortality.
I remember the first time we met Vinny, we were playing some festival in Dallas, and he was head to toe in snakeskin, literally head to toe in snakeskin, hat, shirt, vest, pants, boots. And he came up to me, he's like, hey, you're that Lzzy Hale. I love that song. It's Not You. I got a CD of yours in my limo. I got it in my car. You want to come out to the limo? And he fed us like warm vodka in the limo. And then he took us to his strip club, which was my first strip club. I went to my first strip club with Vinnie Paul, and it was like, a Wednesday, and he had the girls dance to I Get Off. It was insane. I think this is probably the most similar to You and I, though, because it's like rhythm section, lead section. I feel like maybe that's something that puts a little bit of an ease on the competition, whereas like I know that RJ's in charge of the meat and potatoes and I'm in charge of the icing. It's like that's
that's a good point. Yeah.
If you're gonna do it, go all in. I think that RJ and I relate so hard to these guys because they're not afraid to go there. They're not afraid to have, it's like hey, like let's have a, big blow up tiger that we come out on stage. Like RJ and I are always manifesting how big can we make the show, even if we can't afford it. Like let's dream big and we can always scale it down. We built a rotating upside down drum kit for my brother, when he was 11, and it was like, my parents said yes, even though that's like for rule 101, don't shake the baby. I don't know. Regardless of the theatrics, I mean, the musicianship is stellar. The songwriting is amazing. There's humor in it.
Mad respect to any band that embraces the camp.
Yes, embrace the camp. So we would like to talk about one of our favorite sibling bands, our friends in Greta Van Fleet.
Say what you want about Greta Van Fleet. They're a great band. I think it's great when a rock band can transcend into the mainstream, can start to turn people on to rock and roll music.
They caught a lot of shit. They caught a lot of flack for sounding like Led Zeppelin or whatever you want to call it. But I'm telling you, regardless of what the songs sound like or whatever, or their influences that they wear on their sleeve, they are actually playing. They are actually singing. They are actually touring, building their empire in the face of adversity. And you know what? Every time you go to a Greta Van Fleet show, you know who shows up? All the girls, say what you want. Yes. But respect those boys. They deserve all the respect that they can ever get.
Yeah. And something else, if you're getting a lot of shit, that means you're doing something right.
You're doing something right. Yeah.